why? You should subscribe to the Minaris Club. Because the Principal of Saiyans told you to, idiot.
Right. What is good, everyone? I'm here today with my boy, Russell. He just got top 8 at the Pasadena IRL regional, biggest regional of the season, playing APEKU. How are you feeling about that, Russell? How was the tournament?
Honestly, it was a great time. Came down with everybody from Washington local, so shout out to everybody who went. You know who you are. This was my first event of the season, which is kind of crazy because it's already November, but it felt really good getting back into the scene and playing again. But yeah, overall, Core did a great job. The event was super smooth. Played 8 rounds. I finished 7-1. Ended up at 7th place, and I played APEKU.
The boy.
Right here. This is a leader that I've played for quite a long time now. I played this leader back at last Nats and unfortunately lost my way into top cut Nats with it. And since then, this deck has just gotten a lot of support, a lot of indirect support that just works with the deck. So I felt like it had good matchups into this meta because this meta is relatively aggressive. There's a lot of decks that can just apply a lot of early pressure. And while APEKU is also an aggressive deck, it handles the aggressive decks really well. You just have a lot of tools and a lot of ways to just like mitigate your opponent's attacks. And yeah, I felt really comfortable with it. So being my first event of the year, I just decided to run with what I know, and it ended up working out.
Game always rewards you for knowing your deck well. That's for sure.
So
good shit. Let's get into it.
Getting into the deck, starting things off, we have our 4 Bulma Unisons. For those of you that don't know, she's a 1-drop Unison, which you can search her off of your leader ability. For those of you that don't know, the front side, you can look at the top 10 cards of your deck to grab a 1-drop Unison or a 1-drop Earthling only card. And then his backside, when he swings, you can rest mode one of your cards, rest mode all your opponent's non-energy cards, or you can search a Great Ape, which doesn't come up too often. Sometimes it does, but mostly you just want to tap down on everything. And then once per turn, he can combo an Earthling from your drop on your turn. So pretty good.
Freezy energy.
And then her main thing is she gets to free play Gokus. So her +2, when you're on your backside, you can play out Gokus for free, basically. There's only 4 in your deck that you get to play for free, but you cycle pretty good, and you get to search top 5 a lot for them, so you find your Gokus pretty often. She also has a -1 that lets her gain blocker for the turn, which in certain matchups is good. Against red, you never use that ability because they just minus it and you lose blocker. But sometimes it does come in handy. And she's also just an attack soaker. People, for some reason, you slam this girl and people just keep swinging at her, or they side in black smokes and they try and get rid of her. But honestly, as the APEKU player, if you're tapping 2 for black smoke, I feel really good about that because you're trading 2 energy for a 1 energy card that is really easy to find another copy. And she gets to play stuff for free, so I just get a lot of value out of her. And if people are spending 2-3 attacks, or
you're just way up tempo
energy
on that,
yeah, you just feel really good about that trade. I also played 1 SS2 Gohan Unison. It doesn't come up too often, but in late game situations, especially against black decks that don't really have an answer to Unison swings, when your opponent's not expecting it and they're tapped out, you just slap this down there and it's 325k swings. And sometimes, again, if people are just swinging at your Bulma Unisons a bunch, sometimes you can get a nice little board wipe off of him too. Getting into our small Earthlings, we have 4 Yamchas and 2 Bulmas. So Yamcha is the main one you want to search. Going on your first turn, if you see it, you want to see this or the Unison, whichever one you don't have in your hand you want to grab. But he goes top 5 for Bulma or Son Goku. And he also has a neat effect to where when you rest him, so on your leader's backside, you swing, you rest him, he gets to restand. And then if you have a Son Goku that you haven't attacked with, Son Goku Childhood, you get to restand it and draw a card. And there's a bunch of ways to make that happen in this deck, so it's just another +1. So a lot of times your leader swing ends up being a +2, which is really nice because this deck doesn't usually generate really big hand sizes, but given the right set of cards, you can draw quite a bit of cards. And then Bulma's just in here because she can proc some of your other. She can help summon some of your other cards. But again, she's just like another name that you can grab off of your leader's front side, so you don't whiff, because whiffing off top 10 always feels bad. And then going to our Son Goku Childhoods, we play 4 Explosive. This card you can play for free. This is the card you play for free off your Unison. He's Blocker Barrier for those that didn't play at the beginning of the game. He's a really old card. When he comes into play, he gets to pop one of your opponent's battle cards in rest mode. At the end of the turn, he switches to active mode. And your Unison also gives your Son Goku Childhoods plus 5k. So all these guys are 10ks basically, but they come swinging as 15ks. And they're just kind of pesky. Like, they restand, so they're hard to deal with since they have barrier too. So every turn, like, you just try to get incremental advantage off of all these little guys. And they help clear boards. That's one really nice thing about this deck, is like it just does everything, not in a big way, but it just does everything very well. So it's good at board control and putting on pressure, and you just kind of rely on that to kind of run your opponent out of resources. And then we play 4 of the 4-drop and 4 of the 5-drop.
That 4-drop's so broken.
Yeah. This guy, he's unique, barrier, dual attack. You pay 1 to rest one of your Bulmas to rest mode and play him. And he's 10k again with the Unison. He's 15k. And the combo in this deck is you want to have Yamcha out with, and then you play this guy, rest your Bulma, swing twice, and then you evolve over the 5-drop over it, because when you have 2, if your opponent has 2 or more energy, this guy reduces the evolve skills of your Great Apes by 2, 1 yellow and 1 colorless. So this guy evolves over this for 1. He has to draw a card and then pop a card. So he replaces himself, and then when you swing with your leader in rest mode, the Yamcha, you get to restand this guy and draw another card. So that's just kind of how this deck tries to filter through. It makes it so your opponent doesn't want to get rid of this guy, because every time they get rid of this guy, he gets to bring back this guy. So you get to just replay this guy, and that's why we play 4 of this, because anytime your opponent pops it, you just want to keep playing them down. Because it just puts on a lot of pressure, and it also just draws you a lot of cards. So this is kind of like your main engine, your main way to like put on pressure. When you're going second, that's another thing I like about this deck, is when you're going second, because your opponent will have 2 energy on your 2 energy turn, you just can put them down to 3 pretty fast.
And the Ape's like one of the only cards without barrier in the deck, and it floats, so it's just so annoying.
Yeah. And then going with the 4 and the 5-drop, I played 3 of the Son Gohan negates. So if your leader is yellow and you have one of the 4 or 5-drops on board, and you're at 4 or less life, you can negate with this guy for free, and then you can restand them. But then you can't activate counterattacks for the rest of the turn, and he has blocker. This guy, for the most part, was pretty lackluster. I think 3 was maybe a little overkill for this tournament. I was just kind of testing him out, and in the early part of the tournament, he like literally did nothing. I honestly don't think I like casted this dude within the first like 4 rounds. But in the later half of the tournament, especially in the last round against Pan, it was actually pretty... It came in clutch. Against those aggressive decks, sometimes, you know, you tap out and then they think you just don't have anything, and this guy can stop 2 more attacks, and a lot of times it's just enough to survive the turn. So I'd probably cut him down to 2, but yeah, he was alright.
It's also a cute card.
Yeah. And I played 2 I'm World Champion. I know a lot of people don't really play this card anymore, but I'm still a really big fan of it, because 1, it's an extra card, so it like helps turn your post on earlier. And even though the deck did gain more tools to like draw more cards, it still has problems with hand sizes sometimes. So this card just like helps you refuel your hand. Also, I side deck Death Blasters, and this is just like an easy card to get into the drop. Because if you're not playing a deck like Golden, sometimes Death Blaster is hard to turn on. But cards like this make your side deck just even better. So this was actually really good throughout the tournament. I played 1 match against a green Gohan player that was playing heavy hand destruction, and like this plus my sideboard came in handy to keep my hand size like relatively healthy. And then I played 2 Flying Nimbus. It was a best of one pre-side tournament, so like your main deck for the most part didn't matter too much. But I kept a lot of my main deck cards or side deck cards in my main deck just because I didn't want to take too much time siding because it's best of one. I wanted as much time to like play my round. So cards I knew, I knew Nimbus was going to come in every round because most people when they play against yellow are going to side in Koitsukai. So like cards like this I just kept in my main deck so I didn't have to waste any time like putting it into my main deck and then taking card out. So just kind of like a little helpful tip when you're going to BO1 pre-side. Think about that.
It saves a little mental energy too.
Especially if there's no top cut. If there's top cut, then you build your deck towards best of 3. But if it's just BO1 pre-side, just always keep that in mind.
Makes sense.
And I played 2 Frieza Token Negates. This card is obviously really good in this deck. We go down to 6 life when we awaken, and our leader gets to build the energy relatively easily, as long as you see a 1-drop Earthling. So a lot of times you go into Surmounting to go down to 5, and then this just takes you down to 4. That way your opponent can't stall you out and just keep swinging at your Unison. So it protects your Unison, and it also puts you down to 4 so you can start super comboing. And then I played a bunch of like 1-of extra cards. So I sided like a second copy of some of these, but I just had some 1-ofs in the main. Release from Evil is really good. We always have a Unison now, and there's just a lot of decks like Android 21 is really good against. Green Gohan it's really good against. Power Super Saiyan, you know, it's a yellow staple, obviously. Realm of the Gods, again, decks like Pan that go really wide. Even like Green Gohan, Mecha Kabura, they can put out a lot of battle cards, so being able to just like on their first swing of the turn tap down a couple guys always feels good. Vegeta's Final Flash, really good into the yellow matchups, especially when your opponent plays something like Sin Counterplay. You can Vegeta Final Flash it and then swing with leader, put it in rest mode, and then pop it with one of your guys. And then T-Blow. T-Blow is good against yellow. It's good against Android 21. But against matchups that are like, against like red, yellow, I typically take him out. But he did put in with some work. And then our heavy Floodgate package, we play 4 Riposte and 4 Vegito. I mean, these are, I think, are just yellow staples. I know that the tap effects got a little weaker because every deck has access to the extra cards, but you have so many blockers in this deck, like, it just doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Like, once you use one of these guys, your opponent's most of the time just not able to push through because they're going to have to tap down all their resources. And you're a deck that can push some pretty big crit damage, so it's not a good idea to just push through these guys. And then we played the 1-of Swift Retaliation Cooler. I mean, he's Cooler. You know what he does at this point. And 2 Sin Counterplays. This guy was pretty good. I played against like 2 or 3 Pan decks over the weekend, and Sin just puts in a lot of work against red. They don't have any cheap ways to deal with it. I think even against yellow, like, you can Final Flash it, but like they have to dedicate quite a bit of resources. Typically like 2 cards to get rid of it, and it will be a decent amount of energy. That's one reason why I like this into yellow decks, because typically 1 energy is all we need to get rid of this guy. So yeah, he was really good all weekend.
Would you play a third copy going forward?
Probably not, just because he's good, but we also use quite a bit of our energy offensively, so he's not something that comes down all the time, but if you play him at the right moments, he does put in a lot of work.
Sure.
And then the 1 Mira, you know, we play Cooler. We're also a really aggressive deck, so we get people down pretty early, so a lot of times you can just close out games like very fast with Mira, and then of course in the late game situations, you have Mira
pick Cooler, right?
Yeah, it's what yellow does. We all know that. Yep. And then we played 3 super combos and the Gohan Piccolo SCR. I know a lot of people play the We Are Number 1 Secret Rare, but I just like the flexibility of Piccolo Gohan, especially going into a big BO1 pre-side tournament. Like, you only get one game per round, so it always feels bad getting cheesed, especially when your opponent gets really aggressive. And there was like a round or two where my opponent comboed out. I had the secret rare. It was like an easy combo out of. Whereas like if it was we are number one, I'm probably not winning that match. So I just like that Piccolo Gohan is insane defensively and even more insane offensively. So I just think this is the right secret rare to run for this deck. And then obviously your draw 2 super combos.
Makes sense. What's your Z deck got?
Okay, let's go Z deck. First off, we got the Surmounting. Again, he's just to help us get down to 4 life so our opponent can't stall us out. And then we got the Z Leader. This guy has a lot of text and a lot of restrictions. Like, it feels like you have to jump through so many hoops to play him.
Yeah.
I don't understand why.
Yeah, I've played this deck before, and I'm like, what is this even for? Who is this for?
You have to try so hard to, like, set him up. But when he does go off, he's pretty insane. Yeah. Like, he's already a 30k double strike crit. You slap a Gohan Piccolo SCR on that, and a lot of time your opponent is just going to take that.
Did you go into him at all this tournament?
I mean, I went into him quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
You just have to work at setting him up, where it feels like most Z leaders you just get to play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know this guy just closes out games.
Cool.
And then we have 2 of the Z extra card, the Goku's Kamehameha. This card is insane, and the reason why this deck is like still playable, you get to spam the board with a bunch of 15k Gokus, and he just makes them all 20ks. And then when you have your big 5-drop out there, like, you swing with it and then crack this guy, and he's already a 35k double strike crit. So with that and your Z lead, like, you present really big critical hits where either your opponent is spending their hand to combo out of them, and it didn't cost you like anything, or they're taking the hits going down low, and a lot of times you can just close out the game with like Mirror at that point. So yeah, this card is like put in a lot of work. I really wish I could fit a 3rd in here, but the extra deck is really tight, and honestly everything came up this weekend, so like I don't physically think I could cut anything. But if I could make a change, I would play a 3rd of this because it was just that good. And then 1 Hercule. Hercule is your draw engine. You can rest mode any of your Son Goku childhoods and then swing with your leader and activate the Yamcha to restand them and draw a card. So he's always just a +1, and if he survive, like, if you just floodgate on your opponent's turn that comes back to you, like, he just keeps plussing. And a lot of times, like, if you can protect him, like, your draw power can get kind of out of control. And then the 1 Oolong, obviously, to go with like your Mira or your Secret Rare. And the last card in the Z deck was the Vegeta. I went back and forth between this and the 3-drop Goku, but I just valued the removal that this gives you.
Yeah, just having access to barrier removal at the drop of a hat is so nice.
Yeah, it just comes in big, especially when like your opponent sticks out a Sin that's like kind of hard to deal with. But yeah, he came in clutch too. Dual attack critical again. Like, we have a lot of ways to produce critical attacks in this deck, so in those endgame situations, like, a lot of times it's just nice not to be able to give your opponent any more resources. So that was the Z deck.
We have the side deck, which is just the extension of the main deck in best of 1.
Yeah, so we had 2 Son Gohan. It only came in 1 time against, or it came in twice. I played against 2 Green Gohan players. One specifically was running like a very heavy hand control version, and this helped a lot. I saw both of them, and I needed them. 2 Mataido, you side them against Green Gohan. Most of the time, Green Gohan players are not gonna play their 8-drop when you have an energy open, but they have to respect it. Like, this card being in your sideboard makes it so they can't just slap it down. If they ever decide to, then they just wasted 2 energy. So yeah, this guy, you kind of just need to play it. And then I played a second copy of each of these 3 cards that were in my main deck. Again, just depending on the matchup, whichever one was better, I would take some of the other ones out or just add in more copies of these and take something else out. But all 3 of these cards were pretty insane all weekend. And then 1 Time Magic. This is really good against like Pan. Pan, when they play sometimes like that big Z card, extra card they have that like swings twice and gets big, you can just like, you can shut it down. Especially like most Pan decks are going to be running Vegito Secret Rare, so keeping negates in your hand that you can just like,
but they can't discard,
easily play. like Freeze's Army or this, especially if you're like tapped out at the end of their turn and they try to cheese you with a Vegito Secret Rare, you have cards like this that can just say no. 2 Death Blaster. Again, outside of Golden, I think this is like the next best deck that like turns this on relatively easily because of cards like We Are, I'm the World Champion. But Death Blaster, you just have to respect certain secret rares out there, like Cooler SCR. I think is just a really crazy secret rare. So if you're playing against like decks like Golden, where you know that they're probably playing Golden Cooler SCR, whether you know that they're playing it or not, like you side this in just to respect it. It's also good against like Android 21 and some of their floodgates. So yeah, Death Blaster. I don't think I actually activated him at all during the tournament, but
just having it makes you feel safe.
Yeah,
you know?
Death Blaster has just always been a good card.
I call it the anti-cheese cannons.
And then we play the second Swift Retaliation. Again, decks where they just play heavy floodgates that are hard to deal with. Cooler just comes in there and takes care of it. 2 Koitsukai, again for like the yellow matchups or anything that plays like floodgates. Koitsukai, we already know what he does. He's broken.
Goated, yeah.
And then to round it off, we play 2 Black Smoke. He's nice because like he can come in and draw 2 cards. So he has multi-use in this deck again. Sometimes we need help with our draw power, so he can come in and draw 2 cards. He can also deal with like sync counterplay if we don't see like Final Flash and like an explosive. But yeah, he was actually pretty good all weekend. Like he popped a lot of stuff. He drew a lot of cards. I was really happy with him.
Cool. All right. Well, it sounded like you didn't have a whole lot you wanted to change about the deck. Did really well for you, obviously. So yeah, congratulations. You were what, 7-1?
7-1.
That's pretty fucking cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the channel, Russell. This has been a pleasure as always, and I guess we'll see you at Nats.
Yep, you definitely will.
Bye, guys.
Until next time, on the Monares Club, go Super Saiyan.